Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DFS Army Killshot podcast. I'm Kyle Marley. With me this week is Lou Betcha from the MMA Engine, and we're going to break down this UFC Vegas 64 card for you guys today. Lou does free content each week over at the MMA Engine on YouTube. He's also the humor on my Twitter timeline. Go follow him at Lou Betcha. Thanks for coming on the show today, Lou. How you feeling, and how you liking this card this weekend?
You got to be good at something, so I go with the humor route. I'm always excited. Thanks for having me on, first of all. Like, I always love your content for both MMA and NFL stuff. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't excited from a betting perspective with this card, but the more I broke it down, I actually really like lineup construction here. I think there's some interesting spots. Obviously, we're waiting to see if a couple of these fights still come to fruition with the travel issues in Brazil, but yeah, I think I came up with some good spots. There's also some fights on here that made me physically ill to research, but I got past it. So anything for the cause.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So there's like 3 fights that I wasn't sure about. They're all stuck in Brazil right now, but I heard that at least Lemos made the flight. I'm hoping that they all did. So we'll just break this down as if they're all going to happen. But maybe we'll end up losing some WMMA fights on this card if things don't go as planned. But I kind of agree on the lineup construction. I think this is a weird week where usually I like to build a single entry where I use the full week, focus on the one lineup I like the most, and I'll throw that in the single entry contests. And I usually don't build lineups this early, but I was trying to earlier in the day. I spent like 10 minutes trying to build a single entry lineup, and I just couldn't do it. There's so many spots that I'm fine with, but no spots that I love. So I think it just might be like 150 lineup week for me. Use the optimizer, hope to hit the right combination. And then I'm going to try and narrow down my player pool as we go along this podcast. And hopefully by the end of this week, I'll have the nuts combination and win 100K or something, but we'll see. Are you ready to get into it?
I'll take second. I mean, like, I don't have a
Man.
problem.
I'll even split first with you, to be honest.
I appreciate
it. All right. First fight of the night. We got Tamires Vidal minus 140 against Ramona Pascual plus 120. Not a fight I love. I usually am pretty high on the curtain jerkers because it's lower level talent, and this is lower level talent. So I will target this fight a little bit. But for me, it's more so because I just think that the wrong woman is favored in this one. When I was watching Vidal's fights, I really didn't see anything that I was impressed with. I think she throws hard one strike punches and one kicks at a time. And if she can land something heavy, maybe she knocks Pascual down. Maybe she can get a knockout. But aside from her heavy punches and kicks, I wasn't impressed by anything. If she can get on top of Pascual, maybe she can have some success. But I think Pascual's the better wrestler. I think she's more likely to have success on top of Vidal. And I just think Pascual's the better overall fighter, the better striker. She'll put combos together. I think she can get into the clinch, have success there. So I am more interested in the underdog in this fight. I'm picking Pascual to win. But how are you seeing this one going down?
Yes, very similarly to you. I will get to know Vidal. Part of my experts' notes say Tamires Vidal is not good. There's also like there's 2 outside the cage elements here to consider. One is the travel issues. Vidal's still not in Vegas. So if the fight goes on, that's still a pain for her to just get there. And number 2, we need to see what Ramona looks like on the scales. She's fought 135 before, but it hasn't been for a while. So just keep that in mind. Let's see what she does look like on the scales going down a weight class here. So all that being said, the only thing I saw from Vidal on tape is she throws winging bombs. But the one thing that Pascual's taught me in her UFC experience is she could take a beating. Because Josiane Nunez was hitting her, like, was crushing her. And let's be honest, that fight should have been stopped in the second round. I mean, there's a case to be made that you could have stopped that fight. But not only was she taking the bombs, but she was going for takedowns at the end of each round. I mean, not really to score points or win the round, but really just to get out of trouble. She showed an awareness to do that. Now, I'll have none of Vidal. I have to get to a little bit of Ramona Pascual here. You're getting really nice savings here at 7,700, where I'm with you. I agree, the wrong person's favorite. She has UFC experience. Again, she has some takedown upside. And she's probably going to come into the fighter, like when the fight starts, as the bigger person. So if she gets top control, she could score pretty well. I think a finish is live. But even without a finish, if she just gets ground control for 2 out of 3 rounds, she's probably at least going to 10x to 7,700. She'll probably get you at least 77 points during a win. So I'm going to go Summer Pasquale. I'm going to fade Vidal completely here. But on a card where I don't see tons of underdogs I want to get to, I may end up being overexposed to her, unfortunately.
Well, I'm hoping I don't end up overexposed because I just don't want to be too invested in, either one of these fighters, to be honest with you. But I'm cool with just getting Vidal out of our lineup. So let's get her out of here. That's one less player I got to worry about. Now I'm down to 23. Hopefully we'll get a few more of those as we go along. But I am much more interested in the favorite side of this card than I am the underdogs. So these are going to be the ones that I'm more exiting out of my lineups. I'll throw the underdogs that I do like into lineups, see what fits. But that's kind of going to be my game plan this week. I agree. Let's go with Pasquale in this one. I think she can get 10x or more. And if she can get on top in each round, she can even have, 90 plus upside in this fight at low ownership. So I will have Pasquale ownership. I'm not fully against Vidal if I'm using 150 lineups, especially like in the big contest. But if I'm just putting it in the mini max, I'm not worried about losing $150 if she kills me. So I'll just extra out of my personal player pool here. All right. Especially with minus 210, fight goes to a decision. She's plus 325 inside the distance. I'm just not too worried about her breaking the slate, to be honest with you.
Right.
All right. Next one on the card, we have Jake Hadley, minus 255 against Carlos Candelario, plus 215. This is the one I do like the favorite in because Candelario has poor takedown defense. He's not great at getting up, and Hadley's going to want to get this fight to the mat. I feel like it's a close striking match. I probably would favor Candelario if I knew that it was going to be a 15-minute striking match, but I just am pretty confident Hadley's going to want to get this fight to the ground. I think he'll have success doing that, so I'll be picking Hadley to win this fight. How do you see it going down, Lou?
I don't know. This is one of the more confusing ones for me because I just haven't been super impressed with Hadley on tape. Also, he has a horrible, horrible nickname. White Kong is just such a bad nickname for a fighter. Candelario, like you said, yeah, his takedown defense is pretty terrible. But I don't think he's bad on the ground necessarily. He's just bad at getting taken down. His defense is terrible. I could see this thing playing out on the ground for 14 of the 15 minutes. Which in that case, if Candelario gets reversals like Nascimento did against Hadley, like if he's the guy on top, I feel like you have to get to both of them. We've talked about a card where there's just not a lot of good dogs. Candelario at 7,000, if he does get some top control, might be okay. And I don't see a finish in this fight either. I think if Hadley wins, it's by decision. So if you can't get a card where you have 6 winners, Candelario in a loss with a couple of takedowns, I don't know if he gets you 40. Could be enough, 30 some points. Could be enough, but I favor Hadley. I will say that out of all the guys in this range, in this 9,000, high 8,000 range, he's probably my least favorite guy to get to. I realize that he's going to be going for takedowns, but he's just so unproven. And like, let's be honest, one of Candelario's fights was against Tyra, who looks like he could be an absolute stud. So I don't want to take too much stock into like Tyra just dominating him. But the Altamirano fight, look, I thought he won, and he definitely went for takedowns of his own in that too. Altamirano is not a high-level UFC guy, but Candelario did his job. Like, he kept getting up, and he was going for takedowns on his own. He looked competent on the ground, so I think he can avoid being finished. I think you have to get both of them here. I may be underexposed to Hadley, but I have to have some Candelario in case he does get some top control. No bet. I really don't bet on this,
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not betting on this fight either. And I don't love it for DraftKings, but I'm fine with either side. We got minus 190, fight goes to a decision. I do think Hadley would be more likely to finish, but Candelario is hard to finish. So I feel like we do get 15 minutes to work with here. And my preferred play is Hadley because I expect him to have the success in wrestling and grappling throughout the course of the 3 rounds, but he needs to have a lot of success grappling and wrestling if he is going to be 9,200. I probably do agree that he's my least favorite option up here in the 9K range. But I definitely won't be Xing him out of my player pool. And if I did X either one of them out, it would actually be Candelario. I'm not too interested in him, but I do think he's in play as a live dog who can win, maybe score 10X, get a takedown or 2 throughout the fight, and just win on volume. But I'm more interested in Hadley. I do think he can get a finish here. I do think he can get 10 minutes of control time, maybe 5 takedowns throughout the fight. So I like Hadley. I will be getting exposure to him, but I'm fine with him being 20% and these others being higher than that if that's what it comes down to. But
Absolutely.
I'm fine with either side. Preferred plays Hadley.
But the nickname is terrible.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it was until you said that.
Awful.
All right, next one on the card, we have Johnny Munoz Jr. minus 225 against Ludovic Sholinian plus 190. Again, I'm interested in the favorite in this one because I think he's the better grappler, more likely to finish the fight, and can just spend time in top control, can rack up takedowns throughout the fight. That's Munoz Jr. You seeing this one the same way, or who do you like in this one, though?
I think you're getting a steal at this price point, if I'm being honest. Munoz hasn't looked. He didn't look great against Gravely. I understand that. I don't think he didn't look great against Maness. And even Jamie Simmons hurt him, but he won that fight. But this thing's got to get to the ground. If this thing stays standing, we're screwed. But I don't Sholinian. I know he's got a wrestling background, like on the national team, but this should be a mismatch on the ground. I think Munoz is gonna. I think he's very live for a first round finish here. And if he if he doesn't get a first round finish, he's just gonna be racking up takedowns and points. So I think he's not finish dependent for sure. No matter what his win method is. I mean, ideally he wins by like third round submission with 1 second left after just dominating him that would be ideal. But at 8,700, I love him here. And I think this is a get right fight for him. So, for me, I'm going to be probably really overexposed to him here. I imagine he's going to be pretty popular, but man, if it's him or 8,700 or Hadley 92, like I love Munoz so much more in this spot. So I think this is a get right. This is a spotlight fight for him completely.
Yeah, I view this a lot like the Hadley fight, where I like Munoz because the biggest edge in this fight is him on the ground. If he can get takedowns and spend time in top control, I think Ludovic is in trouble in this one. But on the feet, it's a lot closer to even. It's really Munoz Jr.'s kicks versus Ludovic's his boxing. And the only thing I was really, I'd say, impressed with on the Sholinian side would just be his ability to cut off the cage and put pressure on his opponents. But I don't know if you want to be putting that much pressure on a guy like Munoz Jr. is going to be shooting for takedowns. So I like Munoz Jr. and I would rather save that $500 if it came down to him and Hadley, especially if that gets me somewhere else, in the underdog range that I like more. So I also think that the wrestling background, I wasn't too impressed with his wrestling on the Ludovic side, that is, but I do think he could land some takedowns in this fight, maybe land some ground and pound. It's just that he's putting himself in more trouble by doing that. I think he's more likely to get reversed and be in trouble himself than he is to have any real success on the ground. So Sholinian's plan here should be to keep it on the feet, try and win this fight with the striking, but I think this fight will be hitting the ground, and I like Munoz Jr. to either win 2 or 3 rounds or get a submission along the way. But I agree. $8,700 is a good price tag for someone who, if they win through the grappling, should be paying that off and could score 100 plus points. So
even in
I agree. I like
a decision. He should be over 100 too.
Yeah, even in this, I love targeting fighters who can score 100 plus points in a decision, because anyone can score well with a finish. That can come along with Munoz Jr. also. But if he goes to a decision, we can still be okay with 100 points doing that. All right, next one on the card. Which one is next?
Viana. Oh yeah.
Poliana Viana minus 140 against Jinyu Frey plus 120. Viana was one of those fighters that was stuck in Brazil, but the line is moving her way. I think this was closer to even. Yeah, plus 100 the other day. Now she's minus 140. I agree with that. I did pick Viana. I do think that she's the only side I'm interested in this one on DraftKings because of her finishing upside. If this fight goes to a decision, we probably don't have to worry about either one of them being on the optimal lineup. But who do you like in this one? How do you see it going down?
I mean, well, you can't play Jinyu Frey here. She just doesn't score. She's low volume. She doesn't get takedowns. I mean, honestly, I was really hoping we were going to get a better salary on Viana. I think, she's 8,300, I believe. It's, she's not like proactively going for takedowns. She just tries to pull people in the guard. Unlike Johnny Munoz, she is incredibly finish dependent here, I think, because she doesn't rack up control time. She racks up. I mean, and I don't see Frey going to the ground with her. So this could end up being a weird like a lot of this fight could be happen on the feet. And if it does, Jinyu Frey throws no volume. She's not dependable. Viana is actually going to out volume her, probably. I'm guessing here with this fight because it's not really her MO. But the one thing I will say about Viana is when she wins, she scores pretty well. Like she doesn't win like with 70 points. Like she's winning by submission, and it's typically first round submission. So, she's looking at getting you decent points. I'm pulling it up right now, her actual fight log, but I believe that she definitely is going to 10x with her win condition. Here, Viana's wins against, and Martin was 106. Emily Whitmire was 95. That'll work for the salary. But Frey's pretty tough. So, look, I'm going to have a little bit of Viana. I don't think I'm going to go crazy with it. Like I said, I really wish it was a little bit lower on this salary. But no, I would X out. For me, I'm Xing out Frey completely.
I agree. I'm up to 3 X outs already. Vidal, Frey, and I ended up Xing out Sholini. I'm just really not interested in him personally. You agree with that one?
I don't see a path he has to win. And even if he wins some like Blagoy versus DeLima, really boring decision. What does he could score 60 in a win.
Yeah. I don't see the ceiling from him unless he gets a knockout. So that's what I'm shooting for, ceilings. I'm cool fading all three of these guys.
Or an injury, which I guess we now have to cap in these things where a guy blows his ACL in the first round. And
at this point, everyone deserves, 3 to 5%, right. Injury, DQ, equity, but I'm just going to X them out in my mini max anyways, if that's all I'm entering this week. Yeah, I agree. I just think Polyana it's probably close on the feet. Frey is the better striker, but she's just so low volume that I don't have any interest on DraftKings if she wins a striking-based decision. And when she has done, even better on DraftKings is when she's getting takedown, spending time, and top control, but she's not a wrestler, and Viana is way more dangerous. I would feel pretty good about Viana winning this fight off her back, to be honest with you, if Frey wants to go to the mat. So I think all the ceiling is on the Viana side. First round submission, 100 plus points is possible at 8,300 for Viana. So I do like her. I'm a sucker for Viana. I always go overweight to the field on her, to be honest with you, but I'm just going to do it again here. I am going to go overweight to Viana. I'm picking her to get a first round submission in this one, 95 plus points. So go Viana. Hopefully she doesn't burn me again. Next one on the card, we have.
She's not getting finished. Let's put it that. She's definitely not getting finished.
Oh, if she gets finished, she's dead to me, but I don't see that happening.
Right.
Next one, we have Mario Bautista, minus 285 against Benito Lopez, plus 240. And we haven't seen Benito Lopez in almost 3.5 years. He's kind of another one that I'm not too interested in this one. He's in play for a finish because all Bautista's losses are finishes, but I just don't really want to invest too much in that outcome. I'm not against him, but what's his inside the distance here? We got plus 450 inside the distance. I'm just not too interested in that. And on the feet, it's really just his kicks that are impressive. It's going to be his kicks versus Mario Bautista's full game. I think he is better everywhere. I think he can put the pressure on the feet. I think he can get in the clinches. I think he can get takedowns, spend time in top control. I think he can get a knockout. I think he can get a submission. So I just like Bautista as one of my favorite plays to win on the card. I think that even minus 285 is probably not high enough since we haven't seen Lopez in the last 3.5 years. And unless he's just been improving all that time, then I just think that we have value in this one. So I like Bautista. How do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, I think he's going to be the most popular guy in this range. Again, he's 100 less than Hadley, which is, I understand why they set the numbers where they do. But if you look at the money lines right now, you're actually getting a steal in terms of what the money lines are, like ranking the money lines compared to the salary on the board. Look, Lopez has been selling real estate for the last 3 years. I realize different fights, but what happened to that last guy that sells real estate that fought? Ally Aquino. What happened to him in his last fight? He not a good look
when he was selling real estate.
And look, like it's funny, like you don't want to buy a house from a real estate agent that's a part-time agent. You want somebody that's a full-time. Well, you don't want to fight a guy that's a part-time fighter. Like you don't want to bet a guy that's a part-time fighter. And look, Batista's been really impressive to me against Jay Perrin. My guy Jay Perrin is pretty tough. Batista just takedown, racked up points, ran through Kelleher. you could say what you want about Kelleher, maybe at this stage of his career, but guy's a solid vet. Batista ran through him. At 9,100, you are getting a total steal here because he's another guy. He can win this with takedowns. He can wrap up a quick sub. He can win by knockout. He could score well on decision. I mean, this guy has multiple paths to get you tons of points. This is my first bet on the card, by the way. I have him in the distance at plus 155, but his sub prop at plus 475 seems kind of crazy wide to me. Because especially facing a guy on a big layoff, if this thing hits the mat, I don't expect the cardio to be good. But a lot of guys with big layoffs, hey, man, you get trapped in a hold. Maybe you don't have a desire to like spend 3 minutes trying to escape a choke. Maybe you're like, all right, dude, I know I'm done, live for another day. So I love Batista here. I'd love to say I'm going to be overexposed to him, but the problem is I feel like he might be 40, easy 40% in like a big scale GPP. He's also probably one of the he's one of the 2 favorite cash game plays that I would have.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be playing cash on this card, but I would be fine with that. I just feel good about him getting the win. And yeah, if the 3.5 years is going to play into Lopez's cardio, that's not good against a guy like Bautista because Bautista works for an entire 15 minutes in the fight. And that's what I like to see from guys. I don't like when they're wasting, a full minute just dancing around the octagon, not throwing a kick, not throwing a jab or anything. Bautista is not that kind of guy. He's always either throwing punches, putting the pressure on you, doing something, and I love to see that. So I like Bautista to win this fight by any method, and I do think he's got a good chance at paying off that price tag. If he wins a decision, if all of these people in this range win a decision, I just don't know who's going to win. Like, I don't know who's going to score the most in that case.
Well, Batista, at least when he has top control, he's always active. Like, he's never just settling in a position, laying on a guy. He's always throwing strikes. He's always trying to advance his position. So even if he doesn't get a finish, I do think his volume, I mean, we're going to get to another fight later in this card. I don't want to spoil it. There's another guy who does a lot of grappling, but he throws so few strikes that he doesn't really score well and wins. Batista is very, very active on top. And if somehow he hits the ground, he's on bottom, he is another guy. He never settles for being on the bottom. He's throwing up subs and actively trying to get up. So that's what you really want to see with a guy in terms of getting every second matters in control time in some of these tournaments. Like, that's what you want to see from a guy like him.
Yeah, and I'm totally cool with them. I'm just cool with all of these people. So I think it's going to be my underdogs that decide which ones I'm using up top, especially if I'm using the optimizer, because I don't want to say that I want to be overexposed to any one of them because that might put me underexposed to the other. And I just like them all. So Bautista will definitely be in that mix. I'm fine going overweight, but even if he's 40% owned, I'm cool with that if the optimizer gives me over 40%. But what are we thinking about Lopez here? Do we have any interest in him at all?
Excuse me. I mean, if it's him or Tamiris Vidal, yeah, I want a little more of him. But in 150 max, I don't know, man. Maybe you have to have him in like 2 or 3 lineups on the off chance that he bonks him in the first minute. I suppose that's live. I mean, as much as I like Batista, I can't say he's the most defensively responsible fighter. I mean, what's Lopez's chance? His best chance of winning is literally first 30 seconds. So,
I'll keep him in the
pool.
Yeah, I'll keep him in the pool for now, and I might end up Xing him out of my personal player pool later in the week. But yeah, I don't have a lot of interest in it. But if I've already said how I'm going to be attacking this. It's going to be whatever underdogs fit, and then put my combinations together with all the favorites that I like. And I don't think I'll be leaving much money on the table this week. Like, I don't think I'm gonna have lineups with $1,000 left on the table. So it's gonna be a lot of 49,800, 50,000 of my salary being used. And maybe if Benito Lopez makes a 50K lineup, I'm fine with that as the 6th spot in my lineup, something there. Because he could get a finish and score well, but if he wins a decision, he could score 55 points or something like that.
I think at a 20 max, I leave him out.
But, I would agree with that. Yeah, if I'm hand building 20 lineups, he's definitely not making my player pool.
But I mean, in a 150 max, we're talking about, you almost can't leave anybody out. Like, you have to have that one weird contrarian lineup.
If I was playing the big, $18 GPP this week, I'm just not good at manipulating an optimizer to where I can just take down these tournaments. Like I'm losing $3,000 more often than I'm winning 20,000. So I don't really do 150 in the $18. It's special occasions if I do. But if I'm maxing out the mini max for $150, or it might even be $75. I don't know what it is these days. But I'm not too mad if I lose 100% of those lineups, which I rarely would with 150 lineups.
Hard
but I'm fine taking more of a risk in a contest like that, anyways.
If you lose 150, if you lose all 150 lineups, they should give you your money back because it's like so inconceivable. I use this optimizer called Gordo, and I just say Gordo has this look. He's like, looks awesome, Lou. I'm like, oh man, that was easy. It's really easy to use. You just write them, and he's like, yep. So that's it. But like, look, like just I'm sure people have talked about this on your show before, but you always have to have the one weirdo contrarian lineup. Like you have to go either from gambling, from DFS. You just have to go off your away from the eye test sometimes and say, I don't think it has a chance to win. But if everything breaks right, nobody has this lineup. I think some dude just won like the million in NFL the other day with Jake Ferguson as his captain because he cost $200. And then the guy went off, and it's like, well, now you can get to chalk. So, sometimes it's anybody that's played this game knows it's 2 or 3 dogs can just biggest difference between anything, man.
Yeah, a lot of the times it's the guy you would never think of makes the optimal lineup. Like in this case, a lot of the times it's the curtain jerker that I fade. So maybe Vidal's been played just for that reason because she's a curtain jerker that I might be fading. She's going to go get a first round knockout at 6% ownership and be on the optimal lineup this week. So maybe don't fully X her out. But those are the kind of plays that burn me week to week.
Can I ask you a quick question? Like, so is there one fighter that you just hate for life now because they cost you like $100,000?
No. There's just I try to have short-term memory. I try not to have too much recency bias because a lot of the times it's like, man, this guy went out there, looked like shit, scored 55 points in the decision, and then nobody owns him the next time because of that. Then he goes up, puts 120 points. Like I've just been burned too many times to think about it like that, I guess. But I would say Donald Cerrone, he's like my all-time probably most invested fighter. Like I just bet him every single fight pretty much. I'm always throwing him into DraftKings lineups. I would say at this point, if he did come back, I have to say he's dead to me because I can't let that bias go any further. He's just been killing me too much lately. So right now, maybe it would be Cowboy, but he's retired, thankfully.
Gotcha. I'll just add this Miesha Tate for me because I would have won the $100,000 that card with Makhachev Moises.
Oh, wow.
That's where Billy Q got like 150 points. I had Malcolm Gordon coming through as my like crappy dog. And I'm like, and I didn't have Makhachev, but it didn't matter because I was so far ahead. I'm like, all I need Miesha Tate to do is not rack up 1,000,000 points. And then she went ahead and racked up 1,000,000 points. I took 7th in the big one, man.
That's solid though. But yeah, those are the ones that you remember forever. The bad beats where it could have been. I've got those in football, but
of course
I don't like talking about them.
All right, sorry,
bad memories.
We'll move on. I'm sorry.
Next one on the card, we got a rematch and a rebooked fight with Miranda Maverick minus 610 against Shayna Young plus 460. I did not look into these guys again. I just went back to my last research and just copied it for this one. Maverick, I believe, took her down in the first round, took her back and submitted her the last time they fought. I think that's very in play again here. I also think she could go out there and win with takedowns in all 3 rounds. I think the striking is pretty close, but I would even slightly favor Maverick in the striking department. But that's where Young needs to keep this fight. She needs to either, for her ceiling would be a knockout. If she can go out there somehow get a referee TKO stoppage, then she's good to go. But I really don't have any interest in Shayna Young. She is going to be an X out of my player pool. Are you agreeing with this one here, Lou?
100%. And, we don't have like a 9,600 on this card. We don't have that, that max salary. So she's the best. The thing is, she's not finish dependent really, but I feel like she's first 2 rounds finish dependent. Like she's not first round dependent for sure. She can get takedowns. She should be controlling this fight. Like you said, anywhere it goes on the feet, she's going to be the better striker on the ground. And I think the Barber fight kind of woke her up. I mean, look, let's X out the Blanchfield fight from memory because Blanchfield is looking like an absolute future champion here. But against everybody else Maverick's ever fought, she's She's been in control of the fight. She's the one on the front foot. She's the one initiating and dominating on the ground. Yeah, like she's already beaten Shanna Young. I know it was exhibition, but I don't see it any different here. I think Maverick wraps her in a sub round 1 or early round 2. If she doesn't get her round 1, it means she, the only thing you worry about here is she gets one takedown in the first and Shanna Young never gets up and you just get the one takedown and control. Like as opposed to her just keep getting up, Maverick just dumping her 7 times in the first for 35 points. Like you worry about that, I guess, but Maverick on the ground too. It's not that she's hunting for sub. She does throw a lot of strikes too. So she's not just settling for the position and not getting points other than control time. She's getting striking points as well. So I like Maverick big here. I'm going to have her in a ton of lineups. I'm Xing out Shanna Young as well. But I feel like she's another one that's probably going to be super high owned on this card. Again, without a $9,600 option and with some lower priced options here. I just think she'll be incredibly popular. So she's very chalky on this card, but I don't know how you don't do it. And by the way, her in the distance prop is plus 120. I mean, I think you have to. If you wanted a fun prop here, I think her KO is plus 1,400. Her subs plus 185. Her KO is, or I have it wrong. Oh, 900.
This is only.
Yeah, we don't have it yet. We don't
have them
yet.
all open. I only have the sites that I use on my bet fight odds.
Yeah, but I don't have. I use these sites too. I just think as a fun prop, maybe fade the sub and just go for broke.
Yeah, I could definitely take her back and just flatten her out, get a TKO style. I would not be shocked by that. But I'm totally cool with Maverick because she is a fighter who doesn't have to finish. She can score 90 plus points in the decision win here, maybe 100 plus points, which is what we probably need at 9,400. But my worry would be that she just goes out there and she's not losing the striking. She just says, all right, let's get some time in the striking here and win 15 minutes of a striking match. And that would be terrible at $9,400 because she probably doesn't even break 75 points if that's the case. So we need Maverick to get this fight to the ground and either finish the fight or get it to the ground every round and just rack up those takedowns and the control time, because that's the only way she's going to score well, because she's not going to be a high volume striker getting knockdowns on the feet. So it's purely grappling and wrestling based. And I would say since she is the highest priced and I'm fine with all these 9Ks, I would guess that she's one of my lower owned in the group. I mean, if I'm low on, if I only have like 5 underdogs, I'm circulating into lineups, and maybe I just don't have the salary for her. But that would be the only thing, is just if I can't afford her, then I'm fine going to anyone else. But if salary doesn't matter, I'm totally cool with Maverick. I think she probably does score 90 plus points, 95 plus points in this fight and dominates with either a finish or all 3 rounds. Next one on the card is going to be one of my favorite DraftKings fights to target. We have Shaileann Norden-Becky minus 205 against Derek Minner at plus 175. I expect a finish in this one. I expect a submission in this one, and I just bet that right before we came on. Fight ends in submission is plus 200. So I took that. Derek Minner, he's had 39 fights. 30 of them have ended in submission. So that's a 77% submission rate in his fights, but we're getting a 33% line at that plus 200. So I had to take a shot at that. I think it's either Derek Minner in round 1 by submission, or it's Norden-Becky any other way, but probably a submission if he wins as well. How do you see it going down, Lou?
It's plus 550 for round 1 sub, by the way. And that is one of the bets I love the most here. I actually think this is super winnable for Minner. So I'm with you, but this will be in 100% of my lineups. You got to take a stand somewhere. You got to plant your flag. I get the whole contrarian lineup, but like, my God, like in any path, this score is great. I don't trust Minner's cardio. I think that's, I think we know what we're getting with Minner at this point. I don't think Shaileann's a great finisher, but I think Minner is a, like, all right, I had enough kind of fighter at this point. It's crazy that Ryan Hall didn't submit him. That fight going the distance was a very, very bad beat for me when it happened. But I think we've seen Shaileann in fights similar to this with TJ Brown, where it's short notice, with Sean Soriano, who's a gasser, where these guys throw everything in the tank at him round 1, and then they fade, and then Shaileann is everything you want from a gambling and from a DFS perspective. He's going to go to takedowns. He's going to go for submissions. He's going to lay on top of you and strike you. And you mentioned Minner's, all the submissions in Minner fights. Shailan's been subbed 6 times. So this dude's a guy and he's been subbed by guys that were 0-0. So it's like, I mean, he's not, his name's awesome. The Wolverine is a great name. It's got to be mentioned for capping purposes. So I'm a professional. But I think it's either Minner round 1 or Shailan round 2 are the probable most likely outcomes, which means this somehow goes like majority draw. Like Minner could 10-8 him in the first round if he just doesn't quit. But I mean, I don't know how you don't get to a ton of Minner. You're trying to win $100,000. You never play him in cash, ever. But like you can't. But I mean, he's the difference between winning 100,000 or not is having him in your lineup because of the salary savings. I think they're both going to be super popular. You have to get to a lot more Minner. You have to. Like, I have a buddy who's just starting out DFS. He goes, well, if they're both going to score a lot of points, wouldn't you stack them? I'm like, no. Like, let me explain when you stack, if ever. Like, obviously you'd never stack this fight, but I think I'm at this price with Minner, he could easily put up 110, 120 points in a win. I mean, I don't know. And Shailan at 8,900, just in Go's decision, he could still 10x it, like with just 2 rounds of dominance. But man, I think a round 2 finish, he's still getting you 110. I mean, Minner doesn't have 5 rounds of cardio. He's 3 minutes of cardio. Like, I don't think Minner has a full round. Like, he gets pretty gassed because all he's doing is extending for every submission possible, like maximum squeeze with his arms, with his legs. Like, the guy's exerting all the energy he can. So I think Minner round 1, Shailan round 2. I'm max exposure on this fight both ways and more to Minner because on a card with like not a lot of guys in that low range, and he's going to be a super popular dog. You have to think.
Yeah. I mean, he has to be every time, really. He should be, because if he wins, it's probably 100 plus points. 20 of his 26 wins have come in the first round by submission. So I would agree that's not his only path to victory, but his most likely path to victory. And if that happens, he's going to score 100 plus points. And these other people around here really just can't match that type of ceiling. So just ceilings, I have to shoot for the ceiling. So give me overweight on Minner for sure. I'm hoping he comes in like under 30% because I do want this fight in about 100% of my lineups as well. And you can make that happen with the optimizer. You could just say stack between 1 and 1 of the players that you want in there. So we would throw in Norden Becky. We would throw in Minner. And then you would say in all of your lineups. So now you got 150 lineups. This will be in 100% of them. And it's not going to stack the fight unless you enable it to, which I never do. So I think that's a good way to start on this fight is you don't X either one of these out of your pool. You make it a throw them into your entire pool. Instead, I usually put some randomization in there. You could do 1 or 2 unique players, which would mean, let's say your top optimized lineup are these 6 players. If you do 1 unique, then it's probably going to be 5 of those same fighters, and it's going to change 1 person. But if you do 2 uniques, it would be changing 2 people with that next lineup. I usually keep it at 1 unique. As I mentioned, I'll probably keep this up here pretty high this week. And then number of lineups, we can go all the way up to 300. If you don't have DFS Army Domination Station yet, go sign up. Promo code Sleeveless will save you 10%. Every month we have all sports, and we have showdowns, we have classic, we got it all. So I think you guys would like it if you haven't tried it out yet. But I agree. Let's just load up on this fight. I'm picking Norden Becky to win because he has more paths to win. But I think that in the first round, Minner is the better grappler, and he's very live to finish this fight in round 1. So I will probably be, I don't know, maybe close to 50-50 in this one, but that would probably put me overexposed on the Minner side. But I don't know, man. I want to load up and hope to hit the right combination because I expect this fight to end up on that $100,000 lineup. So I agree. Let's throw it in 100% of our lineups and just shoot for the moon.
Absolutely. And from the unique
and there's another fight right here where I'm almost as interested. I almost want to 100% this one too. We got Grant Dawson minus 215 against Marco Madsen plus 185. I expect this fight to play out on the ground for the majority of it. Madsen is an Olympic wrestler. Dawson's a pretty good wrestler himself. Solid grappler, could put up one hell of a pace. And I would say he's the better striker as well, who could put up a better pace on the feet. But how do you see this fight going down, Lou?
Just to backtrack a second, as from the unique perspective as a computer programmer, the things that your optimizer does are like really cool and different. So if you guys haven't checked it out, like I would, I mean, what do I know? But like I would check it out because like just again, from the things that you can do, the logic that goes into it, I'm really impressed with that. So just wanted to get that out there.
Kevin Allen, the owner, Fantasy Football Geek, has put a ton of money into it, and it can pretty much do whatever you want. I'm just not an IT guy myself. I don't spend too much time on the computer doing all this stuff, so I'm just not good enough at manipulating an optimizer personally. So I've been working at it, the last few years, trying to get better at NFL and MMA. But I love messing around with it. And even when I lose, I feel like my time put into it is still well spent because I'm learning each time, anyways.
You can't win night to night. You can't without having access to an optimizer. Now, if that impressed you, now I'm going to unimpress you because here's where me and you are going to go against the grain here. I'm going to be under, and I mean way underexposed in this fight, and I'll tell you why. You got to plant your flag somewhere. You got to take a stand. I think these guys could negate each other. I honest to God think the wrestling threats, because Dawson is a very proactive wrestler. Madsen, proactive. But his striking, at least he's trying. Like against Pichelle, he didn't look terrible. Against Guida, didn't look terrible. Madsen actually went away from a lot of the things that made him appealing to me. Dawson could push a pace. I don't love Madsen's cardio. He is 38. Again, not there's anything wrong with being 38 or older for your older viewers. Nothing wrong with being in your 40s either, unless you're a fighter, and then maybe it's not great. But I actually think this is going to be lower scoring than people think because I don't see one guy dominating this fight. I see a lot of takedowns being stuffed. I think this fight, look, we've seen it before. Two guys that are elite on the ground can kind of balance each other out, and we get these weird striking fights. So if I have to be different from the field, this is the fight that I'm going to be different on. And I don't think Madsen has, you look at his salary, and I almost think it's fool's gold. Like, you can't X him out. But what's his path to get 72? Because I think he loses this fight at a pretty high clip. I think the line's actually low. I think Dawson should be a bigger favorite. I think Dawson wins this fight more often than not. And Dawson could pay off his salary, but I don't know that Mark Madsen can. I don't see him getting 2 rounds of dominant ground control here. So unless it's like the Rick Glenn fight where Dawson just completely collapses in the 3rd round. I mean, Glenn looked good to his credit, but Dawson collapsed in that fight. And that's a nightmare for DraftKings where it's a draw. Like, you just have to hope you have no ownership of that fight, but I'm going to be really low owned to both guys here. I favor Dawson. Like I said, I think this line is crazy low, and I have a bet on him. But and I have a 3rd round prop on him too, because I'm a sucker because round 3 pays more. So I took a shot there, but I don't see. I'm going to be contrarian here and underexpose myself. Wow, that was a horrible choice of words. I'm going to be underexposed to both guys here.
I don't hate it. I don't see me going that route just because I think that the winner does score well. I agree. I'm picking Grant Dawson to win this fight, and the longer this fight goes, the more it should favor Dawson. I like that 3rd round submission, or you said 3rd round submission, right?
I mean, why get greedy? It's round 3. It's
yeah, I like 3rd round submission, but yeah, just round 3 in general is pretty solid because
I mean, this round 3 sub pays more, so I may have to just bet that as well.
I wouldn't hate that. I think in my breakdown I just said a late submission, so I didn't specify a round yet, but that's how I see it going down. But I think if Madsen wins, which they're giving him a 35% chance to win this fight, if he wins this fight, I think he will score over 10x because a lot of it's going to come through wrestling. He could go out there and have a lot of wrestling success in the 1st and the 2nd round. I mean, I've seen him almost rip a guy's head off on the regional scene. He's got a mean choke himself. He's got some power in his hands. I just think that if he finds a way to win, he probably scores over 10x, and he has 90 plus upside as well. So I do like Madsen for that reason, but I don't feel good about him getting the win either. So he's just a ceiling guy. Aside from Minner, I think he has the highest and Lemos maybe. I think he's got the higher ceiling of all these underdogs. If they were all to win, I feel like he has some of the higher upside because of his wrestling background. And then on the Dawson side, if he's going out there getting takedowns himself, a wrestler like Madsen probably doesn't have a whole lot to offer off his back. And I think Dawson has some mean chokes. He can get a submission in any round, but the longer this goes, I expect him to be the better grappler in the last half of round 2 or in round 3. I also like him to put up a pace that Madsen probably just can't keep up with, and I think it'll slow him down, probably gets finished in the 3rd round. So that's how I like it, is a Dawson 3rd round submission. He probably scores more than 90 points. He's never scored less than 89 points in a DraftKings fight. He scored up to 123. He's usually in the hundreds, and I think that's very in play here. So I'm hoping that the DS puts me overweight to him because I like this fight as a whole, and I do prefer him as my preferred play. So I could see me being like 50, 60% Dawson, 30% on the Madsen side, and just being pretty close to all in, hoping that the winner scores well. But if the way you see this fight going down ends up happening, then I'll be pretty screwed. So one of us might end up having a good night, depending on how this fight goes.
Just have to. You just have to take the stand on 1 or 2 fights in the night, and this is the one where, I just don't. I think Madsen will be crazy overowned in this fight, and I understand the reasonings that if he does win, he'll score well. But like I said, I don't even think he's 33% implied to win this fight the way I cap it. I think this is just kind of be a dominant performance. And to me, it's Dawson or bust. Like in a 20 max, maybe I go 1 Madsen, but I think Dawson's the play all day here. But I still want to be underexposed to him because I just feel like he will be so popular that it's a way to go contrarian against the field.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. And I wouldn't want to make a rule like I did on that last fight where I'm forcing this fight into every one of my lineups. I think it would be more of give me a minimum of 20% Madsen or something like that, and give me a minimum of 40% Dawson, something along those lines. I don't like to do that with every fight, but if I build lineups and the optimizer is spitting out 100% Dawson, then I'll put a max on it. Or if it's not giving me enough Dawson, then I'll put a minimum on it. But this is a fight that I would want in more than half of my lineup, so I don't hate like a 40-20 minimum on that fight. But I'm definitely wanting some fights without it, because I could definitely see a Madsen winning the first half of this fight, Dawson winning the second half, or getting a finish in the 3rd round. And if he loses the first 2 rounds and gets that 3rd round submission, probably not going to score enough. So we really need the winner to have 2 or 3 rounds of success on this one.
Right.
If not get a finish, of course. All right, next one on the card. We have Chase Sherman, -130 against Josh Parisian, +110. Oh, man, break this one down for me, Lou.
Like 9 months I've been doing this, and it led to this point. It led to Parisian Sherman as me being on. So I hate to say this. I have to have crazy exposure to both of these guys. And it's not the skill set here again. Where, like, am I betting this fight? No. Nope. Like, I won't bet it with your money. Like, I won't. But the problem is when Parisian wins, I mean, his numbers, like in wins, again, he doesn't have many, but against Bideau, 119. Against Roque Martinez, 79. All right, that's not great. Sherman, when he wins, the Van Der fight, he put up 110. But the numbers that their opponents are putting up against them when they lose, like what I think Collier, I don't have the number, but I'm going to assume that Collier put up 9,000 points when he subbed them in like 30 seconds. I mean,
give or take.
The thing is when these guys lose, they get demolished, and they get demolished so badly that their opponents. So as bad a fight as this is, and as much as people are like, I don't want to watch this, like, it feels like I have to have 90% exposure to this fight. And I'm not going to tell you I want one or the other. I mean, look, if I have to have more exposure, it's Parisian just because he's 200 cheaper. But Parisian does have at least takedown upside. And he could either go for a takedown or he catch a kick from Sherman and get him down. And if he gets Sherman down once, I feel like the fight's over. But then also, it's Josh Parisian, and he's terrible. Like, this is a winnable fight for Chase Sherman. So I don't want to pick a winner here, but like, don't you feel like you have to have a lot of this fight, unfortunately? It's going to make me sick, but you have to.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I hate the fight, but It's the mid-range fight of the week. We got Sherman at 8,200, Parisian at 8K, and they both have 100-point upside here. I don't feel good about either one of them getting there. I don't feel good about picking either one of them to win, but I think the winner has a decent chance at putting up 90 plus, 100 plus points and ending up on that optimal lineup. And because nobody likes either one of these fighters, we'll probably get them a little bit under-owned I guess then they should be, because the fight is minus 260 that it doesn't go to a decision, and they're both coming off 110 plus victories. So yeah, I just think we have to target it. I don't want it in every one of my lineups, so I'm not going to make like that exact kind of rule, but I'd be fine with throwing them in here, putting Sherman.
We live in a world where they're both coming off victories, Marley.
Say what?
We live in a world where they're both coming off victories.
I know, right? And they're fighting for one of the for who's not the worst fighter still in the UFC, pretty much.
Right.
But they both are coming off 110-point wins. So, and this one I'd probably do if I'm making 100 lineups or 150 lineups. Give me a minimum of one of these guys in 100 of them. And since they're right there at the mid range, I'll probably just project them close to even and over 10x projection possibly. But yeah, I think it's one that we have to target, expecting the winner to score well. We don't have to put them in our cash game lineup because we don't want to trust either the floor or the fighter, but this is a good GPP fight to target. I think Sherman is going to be favored on the feet, Parisian on the ground, but I think that the biggest or the only path to a domination would be Parisian on the ground. So I do prefer him of the two. I picked him to get the win, but I just don't feel good about it. So I just want to load up on the fight on DraftKings. That's going to be how I get my investment to this fight. You have anything you want to add on it?
Well, you know what the bet is. I won't define it any further because it's a good family broadcast, but this is the Yam Bag. This is your Yam Bag special. And if you don't know what that is, just look me up, because the Yam Bag, Marley, you must know what I mean by the Yam Bag.
I've heard it, but I couldn't tell the viewers.
Point deduction.
Oh, okay.
20-1 that and now you probably understand why I use the term Yam Bag instead of any other colloquial term here. But
I don't hate that. I've never won. I've never bet that ever. But if I won a bet like that, yeah, I'd be hooked. I'd have to do that all the time.
I've had 3 of them. Look, see, Gordo's going nuts in chat. 3 of them have hit. I think the last one was Negramanu getting eye poked over and over again by Nchukwu. I think that's the fight, but Nchukwu, but just getting eye poked over and over again. And you're screaming at Herb. The reason these bets are hilarious is you screaming at the ref, and it's always Herb Dean for these fights, without fail. And I'm like, stop warning him. Stop. No more hard warnings. Dude, just take the point.
Oh,
20-1 odds. So
yeah, I would hate that kind of sweat, especially if they're not taking points away when they give them 2-3 warnings. That would just piss me off. But I don't hate that, especially on this type of fight.
You put $5 on it. Look, man, I make $5 is nothing to me. I make that in a week. It's nothing to me. So $5 in that bet. Let's go.
I like it, man. I like it. All right, and we skipped one. I think that's the third to last fight we just went over. The one before that is Tajir Ulianbekov minus 215 against Nate Maness plus 185. Maness was a big 135er, and now he's dropping down to 125. So I expect him to be huge at this weight class. Ulianbekov is a big guy himself, but Maness should be, he's 3 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. So I think this is a pretty fun matchup. I'm going to take the guy I expect to win, more so on the ground, which is going to be Ulianbekov. But how do you see this fight going down, Lou?
So this is another, I mentioned before about guys that get takedowns but don't throw strikes and score well on the ground. And this is Tajir. I think he wins this fight at a very high clip. Maness is coming off fighting cousin Umar, and this is the same game plan, I believe. There's no reason to deviate here. But against Nascimento, he scored 93. Against Silva, he scores 85. But the significant strikes are the problem. 18 against Nascimento, which is just in 3 rounds, is crazy. For something strikes, 46 to 1 before that. Against Tim Elliott, he threw 90, which is a number you want. And you could argue he should have won that fight. But even if he did, he's only scoring 89 with so he's 10xing, but barely. I feel like he's going to be a super popular option. You have to use him at the salary at 8,600. He's going to be super popular. But he's another guy, like, I may go a little bit contrarian here. I have no interest in Maness in this fight, by the way. None. I realize that he's got some pop. Maness is also coming down in weight. If he looks terrible on the scale, I immediately retract my statement here. Tajir could easily get a finish, but he's kind of a decisionator. He gets the one takedown around. Maness in his career hasn't shown any kind of predilection to want to get up. He just kind of settles for bottom control, defends. He's pretty tough, but Tajir doesn't throw enough strikes for me to like really rack up points. If Maness looks bad in the scale, I will go crazy high owned on Tajir, but you have to get him in. I'll be even to the field on this one, I think.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, 8,600 is a good price tag. That's going to help you, especially if you got Munoz in there already. Like you're throwing these mid-range guys, then you don't have to take these dumpster dives like a Candelario or a Lopez, something like that. So I'm cool targeting this mid-range. And Ulanbekov is a guy who could go out there and land 5+ takedowns in this fight. Maness has been taken down in like all of his fights multiple times. Umar's a beast. But Munoz, I thought Munoz kind of won that fight or maybe made it a draw. He spent a lot of time in dominant positions on the ground there. I just think that Ulanbekov has the chance to go out there and get 5+ takedowns, control the fight for 5 minutes or so. I liked his volume in his last fight, but a lot of that's probably from the Tim Elliott side, just trying to match his pace. Nate Maness could do the same thing though. And I like Maness more so than you. I'm not going to X him out of my player pool because Elliott had success against Ulanbekov, and I think Maness can have that same success. And I also like Maness's striking more than Elliott's. So I just think he is a live underdog here. He scored over 100 in 2 of his 3 wins. If he happens to put up 100 in a win here, he's on the optimal lineup. Shouldn't be too owned, but he is an underdog that I have some interest in at 7,600. If he finds a way to win, I think he probably gets 10x or more. So I'm cool with him when I'm already like, I would rather have him in my player pool than Lopez and Candelario, to be honest with you. But I think probably leaving them all 3 in there is the right move. Maybe I'll limit them to like 15% max, something like that, because I am going to pick Ulanbekov to win 2 or 3 rounds in this one, mainly by getting the fight to the ground and winning there. But I think a striking match would be pretty close with these two, especially with Maness dropping to 125 pounds, man. If he can come in on weight and look good at that weight class, man, I think I got high hopes for him there, I guess. But
it gets dicey. Gets a little dicier.
Yeah, 5'10" at 125 pounds. Like you don't see that much. So,
but he's tough, dude. And he look, Gravely had him like murdered.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Yep, I'm all right." That's all I needed. A couple seconds, and I'm all right. So, but I think they got the game plan for him, and this seems to be his weakness, is these kind of controlled fights.
And I was kind of hoping, like, if Ulanbekov was priced in the 9K range, I would have much less interest in him when I have to duel with all these other 9K fighters. But at 8,600, man, that I don't hate going to him over any of these people if I need to save that kind of money. So good price tag. I don't hate your idea of going overweight on him. And if you're right on that Maness fade, then that's just one less player we got to worry about. You guys can fade as many people as you want to and try to narrow down that player pool. The less lineups you make, the more fades that I would want to have. All right, next one, we got the co-main event. Who's favorite here now? All right, let's pretty much pick them. We got Neil Magny minus 115 against Daniel Rodriguez minus 105. I am going to pick Rodriguez in this one. I slightly favor him here just because I like his volume. He is a volume machine out there. He's coming off of a low volume performance in his last fight, but he still landed 88 significant strikes in that fight. Magny has had 27 UFC fights. He's only landed more than 88 significant strikes one time. But at the same time, Magny does have good defense, and he's never absorbed 88 significant strikes in a fight. So I really wouldn't expect, the normal 100+ that we see from Rodriguez in this one. I think it would be closer to the 80 range, but I don't see Magny matching that. And I think the edge for Magny in this fight would be on the ground if he can get it into the clinch, work some takedowns. Maybe he can get, 1 to 3 takedowns in this fight and win minutes that way. But overall, I expected to see a decision in this fight. I don't think either side dominates. And it's the co-main event, which I think usually gets a little bit of extra ownership. So my move on this one will be to go underweight on both sides. But Daniel Rodriguez is my preferred play because he's an underdog that I'm picking to win. And I do think he can score 10x plus in this one. But how do you see it going down, Lou?
Same as you, and you get a nice little salary savings here to 7,800. the last fight with the Leech was kind of just the circumstances around all these fights last time he fought were very strange. So like, I feel like that needs to be taken into account here. Everybody getting a new dance partner, 2 days or a day before it happened. So look, there's no tape, there's no he wasn't scouting the Leech 2 days before. So did he win the fight? I mean, you can make a case for that Lee won that fight. I understand that. But I can forgive any performance he put up there. Again, no scouting, no advance notice. Against Magny, look, man, Magny's coming off getting crushed, which is rare. Do I think D-Rod could do that to him? Maybe not. I think D-Rod keeps it on the feet. But like you're saying, his pace is great. His volume's great. And what's Magny been his whole career? He's a pace guy. He's a guy that throws a lot. That's always, his cardio is great. I think D-Rod can match him and negate the one thing that makes Magny good against most of these guys, and that is that cardio and that pace. D-Rod could put it right back in his face, can throw more volume. His power carries late too, which I think is really underrated. I'm not saying he gets a knockout on Magny, but he may make Magny, not so willing to engage and just coming forward and throwing a ton of volume. He may make Magny resort to cage control and going for takedowns, but I have no interest in Magny here, even in a win. He's not going to get you 10x. And D-Rod, look, he's one of the underdogs in this card that I think should be a favorite. I think you're getting a slight amount of salary savings on him compared to the money line. So I'll be playing some D-Rod, not a lot, but you have to get some of them here. We talked about Miesha Tate before. I can never fade the co-main event again the rest of my life because I know it can happen. So I'll have some D-Rod here. But Magny for me is honestly in a 20 max. He's a total X out.
All right, yeah, I agree. Let's go ahead and X Magny out 8,400. I think he's gonna have a lot of grappling success to pay that off. In 3 of his last 4 wins, he scored 75, 72, and 63 points. Like those aren't gonna cut it at 8,400. So when I like a lot of favorites, I would rather just take my chances on them. Let's X Magny out of the pool. Then we have less combinations we have to worry about. So already up to 5 exclusions. I love to see that. We got Young, Shalinian, Frey, Magny, and Vidal. So I think those are 5 that we can just go ahead and X out. Unless you want to make an ownership type of play, they should be all pretty low owned. So I think that's the only real reason to play them, is just to try and be different from the field. But I agree with those fades. I will just X them out, and I'm not going to be taking my chances at least with my 150 mini max. So I agree on those. Next one, we got the main event. And I never like to fade main events, so I'm not going to X these ones out of my player pool. But we got Marina Rodriguez minus 210 against Amanda Lemos, plus 280. I heard Lemos made her flight today, so at least we're going to have this fight. That's good to know. But this should be a striker's delight. Both of these ladies are 2 of the better strikers in the division. I think Lemos has the power upside and the grappling upside if this fight were to hit the ground. And then Rodriguez, I just think, is the smoother striker, the higher volume striker, going to have the cardio edge in this one. The longer the fight goes, the more it should favor her. And I think she is live for a finish in those championship rounds as well. But I'm picking Rodriguez here. I'm just more impressed with her. And I think that this fight does get pushed into the later rounds and she wins those rounds in the 4th and the 5th if she doesn't already have it booked on the scorecards, and she might get a finish as well. But how do you see this fight going down?
Well, I already have a bet on Rodriguez round 3, round 4 at plus 750 on DK. Nice. It's another one you have to roster both. I mean, look, it's a 5-round fight. You can't fade it. Lemos is going to be dangerous very early. Her win condition probably breaks the slate. She probably gets 110 points in a win. 1st round KO, early 2nd round KO. If she doesn't, I don't trust her cardio. It's not looked great traditionally, and Rodriguez has shown she can go 5 rounds. Her cardio's been good. I know she's been working on her grappling. So if Lemos does decide to do that, I think Rodriguez can at least keep it on the feet or stuff a few of them. But if you're Lemos with that limited cardio advantage, I mean, do you really even want to take that path? I don't know. She may just go 1st round KO. And again, we mentioned this, it's a couple of other fights on this card. The fact that she's just getting her flight today, getting in Vegas. Look, man, it's Wednesday. The fight's in 72 hours. Like, it's a pain in the ass. Like, it's a problem. And it disrupts the rhythm. Like, a lot of these guys, it's very precise camps. Like, it's very precise how you do things. And everything's been thrown into flux with this. So Her rhythm's disrupted. It's Lemos early, or Rodriguez will get a finish in this fight. And if she's getting a finish, she's not a one-punch knockout person. This is a volume knockout. So it's probably 100, 120 strikes and a late finish. So going to play them both. Heavier on the Rodriguez side. The only issue is at her salary, there's just so many better options at that number. But like if this is a 3-round fight, we're not having this conversation. The fact that she gets those 2 extra rounds to pile up points kind of makes the 8,900 a little more appealing. But you have to get to both of them, I think, on this card.
Yeah, I mean, well, I definitely won't fade the main event, but I do like going underweight to main events like this one, where I expect the favorite to win by purely striking. And she's coming off of, she has 2 5-round wins in her last 3 fights, and she scored 89 and 85 DraftKings points in those 2 fights. That's definitely in play here. And that's probably not going to cut it with these other 9K plays that we got right above her. Norden Becky right above her. Munoz, Ulanbekov right below her. So I think I will be underweight to the Rodriguez side. With my hand builds, I would try to avoid her, to be honest with you. But I do think that this main event goes a little bit lesser owned than most main events do. So I don't know how low to go on her. Like if she's going to be just low owned in general, then I wouldn't mind going overweight to that, especially if she's going to get a 3rd through 5th round finish with high volume leading up to it. So I'll get a better feel for ownership, in the next couple days, and I'll kind of base what I'm going to do with this fight on what I think the field is going to do. But I do prefer Lemos. Even though I'm picking her to lose, I think she'll have a much easier time paying off her price tag if she is to win. I'm shooting for ceilings here, and if she wins, she is going to pay off $7,400, where I don't know that Marina Rodriguez is going to score 88 or more points in this fight. She could go out there and score 70, 75 points in a 5-round win with 0 takedowns, 0 knockdowns, and that's just not going to cut it. So in general, I want to be lower on this fight. In my head, I just kind of see like a 20% Rodriguez, 30% Lemos, something like that. But Lemos, Minor, and Madsen, I think, are the 3 underdogs with the highest ceilings in this one. So I'm fine just kind of throwing them in however it works out. Do you have anything else you want to add for this fight?
No, I think I covered this fight way too much. But somehow I covered the Josh Parisian fight for a long time too, so who knows?
All right, yeah, I think that's all I want to say about it as well. All right, to end each podcast, we like to pick a kill shot, somebody we think might go a little bit overlooked by the field, but could be the key to that $100,000 lineup. Do you have somebody in mind for a kill shot on this card, Lou?
Well, I know what you're going to say, so I want to go different because I don't want to say who you're going to say, so I'll just leave it. But I know who you're going to say, so I'm going to go away from this submission specialist and go to a ground and pound specialist. I'm sick that my one appearance, I'm going to have to say this. I'm going to go Josh Parisian. I know it's cheating because it's the 8,200, 8,000 fight. I just don't think he's good. I think the ownership he's going to get compared to what his ceiling is going to be bonkers. I don't know that he's going to be more than 15% owned because people are going to, it's Parisian. People are going to fade this fight because it's a low level fight, not realizing that the winner's probably going to hit 115 points. And if that's the case, I want the cheaper guy. I want the guy with takedowns. I want the guy with ground control. I wanted to say somebody else, but I'm trying to be polite. So I'm going to just be contrarian and say that Parisian, considering he's going to be completely underrun on the slate, can win you a tournament.
No, I like that. The more contrarian is what we want to see. And I think somebody like Derek Minner is not contrarian enough to be a kill shot, to be honest with you. So I'm going to take another submission specialist, go with my girl, Polyana Viana, 1st-round submission, 100 points at 8,300. So I like Polyana. I feel like I've probably picked her as a kill shot before, maybe multiple times, but I know it's worked out for me at least twice. So hopefully we'll get another one right here with Polyana. But I appreciate you coming on the show, Lou. Thanks a lot. I had fun talking with you. If you have anything you want to promote, man, the floor is yours.
I had fun too, man. Great working with you. Always a big fan of your work. So really cool to get to talk about these fights. I do a prop show, which I'll be recording literally in 5 minutes after we're done. I do that every week on the MMA Engine. Friday Happy Hour with Monk, where last minute bets, DFS. Honestly, at this point, I would call it more of a comedy show than even like a betting show. But we do that on the channel, and just check out all the stuff. We're going to be interviewing Cody Brundage 2 weeks from now. We had him on the first time and he won. So I expect him to apologize to me for telling me to bet him round 1 submission when he won by round 1 KO. And then he'll be talking about his fight with Rodolfo Vieira coming up in 2 weeks. But thanks again for having me on. And I hope that everybody that watches this does get some value out of our lineup advice.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate it. And a lot of the times when I end this podcast on Wednesdays, I see you guys are live and I just go click right onto it. So yeah, go tune into that on the MMA Engine, guys. Thanks again, Lou, for coming on. Thanks everybody for listening. Good luck to you, Lou. Good luck to everybody else. Go win something. See you guys.